Denton, longtime sports writer, covered the Magic for 24 years. Welcome into Denton's Dish and the Magic Beat, presented by Sideline Sports and Entertainment Network. Today we have with us guest Dick Scanlon. Dick Scanlon's covered all 37 years of the Magic. I don't know whether to congratulate him or apologize to him for that. Dick worked for the Lakeland Ledger, NBA.com, and most recently the Associated Press. He still covers the team. Dick, how are you? How's your summer going?
Pretty good. The summer is long, John, just like yours. Can't
Dick,
wait for the NFL and the NBA to get going.
yep, that's true. Dick, today is Franz Wagner's 25th birthday. What do you buy as a birthday gift for a guy who's making $42 million a year? What did you buy him for this birthday this year?
Probably go get a gift card from some restaurant or something.
Yeah. You think he wished for two good ankles this year? Dick, he played 79, 80, and 72 games his first 3 years. However, 60 and 34 the last two. He had stretches where he missed 15 games, 9 games, 22 games, and 1 game for injury management.
Yeah.
How important is it for Franz to stay on the floor this season? We all know how talented he is. Yeah. How important is it for the Magic for him to stay on the floor?
Huge, especially since his absence last year was compounded by the fact that he came back too early to play in Germany. And really, I don't think he was ever totally Franz Wagner for the rest of the season. That was a mistake, and he admitted it.
Yeah. Dick, we know the Magic usually are overcautious when it comes to injuries. I mean, I think they wrapped Jonathan Isaac in bubble wrap for about 18 months. Was it shocking that, they allowed him to come back? I understand the pressure. You're from Germany. You're playing an exhibition game there. You want to play in that game. But, I mean, that was kind of the downfall of last season, wasn't it? Him coming back too early and re-injuring that ankle?
It really was. It took a lot out of the team because – I mean, he came back at probably, 75% for the rest of the year, and they couldn't really afford that. And I'm sure it hurt them defensively too, because again, as we've discussed, that's where the team really fell down on defense.
Yeah, Dick, some videos just surfaced from out in LA. A lot of the Magic players are working out together. Franz looks great. He's moving great. I hear people all the time say, wow, 6'10" guy, how can he move that well? He finishes well around the rim. He's got that Euro step. But the next step for him's got to be three-point shooting, right? He's got to shoot the ball better if he's going to be a wing, right?
Right, and he's had times, when he's been okay at that, but he's also had times when he just could not hit a shot when they needed it. And, I mean, that's part of what's going to be looked at this year if the Magic don't start well is that their two key players or, two young emerging players, Franz and Paolo, are kind of similar in style. They have to get to the free throw line. They have to get to the basket. And the league now, you have to have everybody be able to hit the 3-point shot. And so, and they got Desmond Bain for that reason, and he delivered. He came through, but it's still a bad shooting team, and the guys who are on the floor are going to have to be the ones that start making the shots. So,
Dick, I've always been fascinated by it in the NBA. How can a guy be so gifted, skilled, finishing around the rim, finishing in traffic, Euro step, ball handler, but he can't shoot? It's like his fellow countryman. Dirk Nowitzki was the most beautiful offensive player I've ever seen in my life. Create any shot, beautiful textbook shot, high elbow, high arching rainbow shot, and he couldn't guard his own lunch on the other end of the floor. It always boggled my mind that a guy could be so skilled at one end and not at the other end. It's the same way with Franz. He's so gifted in so many ways, but that jump shot looks like an eighth grader sometimes. It's coming from his waist. It's kind of a set shot. Dick, do they need to tear his shot apart and rebuild it, or is it too late for that?
Well, I don't know that they're gonna that's going to be a priority because I mean the guy does score. Uh,
Yeah.
it's not like they got three really guys that are capable of 30-point game on any night now, really,
Hmm. Yeah.
and and he's one of them. It's back to what you said at the beginning, John. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to stay on the floor, and
Yeah.
we all know the big thing this year is going to be can they get back to being an elite defensive team because they certainly weren't last year, and last
Yeah.
year was the first disappointing year they had under Jamal Mosley.
Yeah. Yeah. They made
That's why.
strides offensively last year and then took a big step backwards on defense. So that's another thing for Sean Sweeney. The offense has got to be as good as it was last year, and the defense has got to be a lot better. Dick, another tie to Sean Sweeney. The Magic signed Malachi Branham, 23 years old, 6'4", 180 pounds, point guard, shooting guard. You'll be happy to know that he went to St. Vincent St. Mary's, the alma mater of LeBron James. He was the 20th pick out of the 22 draft. Spent 3 years with the Spurs. He averaged 10.2 points a game as a rookie. Here's what I like most. You know, I'm all about the shooting. He shot 40.5% from three in the 24-25 season. Spent last year with the Wizards. Very forgettable. But he has a history with Sean Sweeney. Dick, how much do you think Sean Sweeney's ties to San Antonio, knowing this guy, working with him for 3 years, has to do with him now being a member of the Magic?
Wow, a lot, and I guess this new guy will be the litmus test of that, right? I mean, he
Mm-hmm.
brought him in from San Antonio, and he's got LeBron James High School on his resume, and the
Uh-huh.
San Antonio Spurs under the tutelage of Sean Sweeney. Very interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. He played in college at Ohio State. Last season, he split last season between the Wizards and the G League, 4.6 points a game. But again, he shot almost 38% from three. So clearly, he's a guy who can stroke it from the outside. And anybody who's listened to me for more than 5 minutes knows you can never have enough 3-point shooting. I'm a guy who I want five people on the floor who can shoot threes at all time because that's the way you create offense these days. Maybe not your center. I don't want to see Wendell Carter shooting threes. I know he was actually one of their best shooters at one time last season, but I think that said more about the Magic than it did Wendell Carter. But Dick, I'm a fan of 3-point shooting. I want at least four 3-point shooters on the floor at all times.
Well, you must love the Celtics then, right, John?
I don't love the Celtics, but and I think they kind of bastardized the game. But
Yeah.
man, I do like shooting. After the Magic got good under Stan Van Gundy because they had shooting, because they had Rashard Lewis and Hito Turkoglu and Jameer Nelson and Mikael Petrus. I mean, you had Dwight rolling down the middle, and you had four shooters around him. I like that theory.
Well, here's another thing you're going to like then. Speaking of 3-point shooting, Vooch can hit a 3-point shot.
He can. He can. He
Which,
can. I think Vooch still has a lot left in the tank. I think he's going to help them this year.
well, I mean, that's another guy that. Well, I don't imagine we'll learn much in the preseason from him, but the fella from San Antonio, that will be something to watch as they roll out the preseason games. That'll be a lot of fun to watch.
Yep. Yep. Again, you're watching the Denton's Dish and the Magic Beat, presented by Sideline Sports and Entertainment. Dick, we mentioned it earlier. Pictures and videos are coming out of LA. A lot of the Magic players are hanging out together. They're going to dinner together. They are working out together. There have been a lot of videos. Paulo and Franz playing side by side. Paulo looks really thin. He looks in great shape. His shot looks a little better. Dick, how important is it for teams to kind of build that chemistry, build that rapport with one another throughout the summer before they even get to training camp?
Oh, it's got to be huge. I mean, this is a team that's essentially coming back intact from last year, and of course they have the big change with the on top with the coach. So, you know, I guess the sooner you can get that mix generated and playing together and working together. But I'm especially impressed by the news that Paulo appears to have lost weight, and
Hmm.
that's obviously. I'm not saying he was out of shape or anything, but if he decided to lose weight and then succeeded in doing so, that tells you something about his motivation. You know,
Yeah,
I got a feeling he's going to be very motivated, and I also think that Sean Sweeney's going to be a big part of that.
yeah,
Not that he
and
was not motivated to begin with, but he's kind of a I won't say laid back, but he's kind of hard to read
yeah,
because he's so professional and mature in his approach. And any spark that can be lit under him is certainly going to be work to the Magic's benefit.
yeah. I think Sean Sweeney's made it clear to Franz Wagner and Paulo Banquero and Desmond Bain. Hey, you got to be on the floor for 75 games. You got to be on the floor for 70 games at a minimum. You got to be a leader of this team. You're making the most money. We got to be able to turn the ball over to you and get us a basket. You can't go through what was it 14 straight minutes without a basket the way they did in that game,
Uh,
that horrid game 6 against the Pistons. We talked about it last week, Dick. Sean Sweeney took a trip out to Texas to spend time with Desmond Bain. Some of the teammates are working there. Vooch usually goes overseas, goes back to his home country of Montenegro over the summer. Vooch is in LA working with his new teammates. So I think it's a really good sign that this bunch is building chemistry right now. We know how it works. A lot of times you get the playbook long in advance before spring training camp. So I think it's definitely a positive that these guys are working together, and maybe it shows a seriousness that lacked in the past. About they know there are no more excuses. You can't use the injuries as excuses anymore. The East is a lot better, and to make the playoffs, the Magic are going to have to be a lot better this season.
well said. This is a what's the word? Watershed year for a lot of individuals and for the team. There's the on paper the rest of the conference has taken a significant step up. I mean, there's three or four teams that look like they have on paper might have been worse or even with the Magic that now look better, which is why I saw on the athletics listing of the 30 NBA teams from top to bottom, the Magic were listed as 16th.
Ouch.
I don't remember what they were last year, but I got to think they were probably higher than that.
Oh yeah,
Certainly
yeah,
close to the top 10 because everything seemed to be on the upswing. Now you got Philly, Atlanta, and Toronto have all moved ahead of them, at least on paper, and they're going to have to figure out a way to reverse some of that.
yeah, yeah. I think
Indiana was listed, uh, if I recall correctly. Indiana was listed ahead of the Magic. I mean, they were really bad last year, and of course they have Halliburton back, but
mhm.
uh, the Magic has to finish ahead of Indiana and Atlanta, and that's a tall order.
Yeah, I mean, if the Magic need a motivation, if they need a motivating tool, if they need that chip on their shoulder, right there it is. Like you're listed at 16th in the NBA, and we all know the worst place to be in the NBA is right in the middle. If you're bad, you're getting good draft picks, and if you're at the top, you're in the playoffs. You're getting home court advantage. Dick, one of my favorite lines ever by a sports writer. We're old sports writers, years and years. Isaiah Thomas was coaching the Indiana Pacers, and every year they were like 41 and 41, 42 and 40, 40 and 42. Somebody dubbed them the Indy 500, which I thought was a great, great line. But
The Indy
you
500.
can't be in the middle in the NBA, and if the Magic need motivation, hey, 16th best team in the NBA is not going to get it done. You're not going to make the playoffs. I'm not sure where that ranks them in the Eastern Conference, but there's a lot of good teams. There's 11 teams in the East that may have an argument right now to make the playoffs. So if the Magic are going to make the playoffs, they're going to have to make a big jump. And if they're going to get a top 6 seed to guarantee themselves entry into the playoffs, they're going to have to make a huge jump. They're going to have to be the defensive team they were 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and they're going to have to be, a better offensive team like they were last year. Dick, you mentioned Nikola Vucevic earlier. Tell me what you think. How do you think Vuce is going to help this team? I worry about him on the defensive end, but I do like that he can shoot the ball. I like that he can be kind of a pressure valve and take some of the pressure off of Franz and Paulo. How do you think he can help this team?
I think he's going to have to change the offense when he gets in the game because, as we know, his offense is going to come from the perimeter, which is, why that was a good signing. But also, he wants to be here. He's a veteran presence, very coachable, very NBA savvy, and but he's going to be playing I won't say minimal minutes, but limited minutes.
Yeah.
If he has to play 25 minutes a game, there's going to be big problems. That's unless there's something we can't see about what is he now 36?
Yeah,
But
he's somewhere in there.
I think he's going to. I agree with your misgivings on the defensive end. I don't see him being much help there, but
Yeah.
Coming off the bench, they have a lot of potential coming off the bench now, and with him, they needed
Yeah.
another guy that can rebound and shoot.
Yep. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I like Vooch. He got destroyed in the playoffs against Embiid. Embiid's a guy who's always given him fits. So Wendell Carter's going to have to play big minutes at the center position on those nights. But I think there's a chance Vooch could be the starter by midseason. Maybe you start him to get him off to a better offensive start, and then you bring on Carter for the defensive burst.
That would
Dick,
be interesting.
yeah, Dick, we're gonna break down one player a week leading into the season. We're gonna do a player profile, Magic player profile. This week, of course, we're gonna start with Paulo Banchero, the star of the Magic. He's making $41.2 million in this season ahead. All eyes are on him. There's a lot of people out there kind of doubting how good he really is. The number one pick in the draft in 22. Can he get this team over the hump, Dick? I want you to take it and tell me what you view as his strengths and weaknesses and an area where he can improve this season.
His strengths are his physical strength, his size, his all around game, and his maturity. When he came into the league, he was 19 or 18, and
Mm-hmm.
he was. I was stunned at how mature he is, and he has a good grasp of the game. Going to Duke for a year certainly helped, and he came into the league ready. But you're right, he has been. He's kind of a lot of the blame for last year, probably too much of the blame for last year, was put on him. He missed 10 games early in the year, and then, you know, it took him a while to get back into into rhythm. Um, his weakness is too many turnovers, too much dribbling, too much uh, stagnation of the ball. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that wasn't all his fault. It was the fault of the offense. In general, the ball has to move a lot more
Yeah.
in the Magic offense. But he must have been. He had way too many times when he dribbled too much. Somebody came and took the ball away from him.
Mm-hmm.
And as
Dick,
far as yeah,
yeah, you've got a key stat on him as well. Give us your key stat, and then I've got one to counter with.
well, he shot 30.5% from 3-point range.
Mm.
You can't have that. Now, I'm like you. I do not want to see him jacking up 5 threes a game,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to, when you're on the floor that much, taking that many shots, you have to shoot. You have to, first of all, you have to be able to you have to take the three now in the NBA, or you
Yeah.
can't play because but if you shoot 30%, you're going to be open to shoot threes, and
Yes.
you got to make it. But hopefully they'll run the offense so that Franz and Paulo can get the ball near the basket and draw fouls, and
Yeah.
Bain and Vucevic and Anthony Black and De Silva
Yeah.
are jacking up the threes, and not the two young big guys. But
Yeah.
yeah, you got to shoot better than 30.5%.
Yeah. Dick, I got an area he can improve as well. How about this one? Paulo Banchero had the fifth most isolation plays run for him last year, 14.8 isolation plays per game.
Yeah.
Here's the kicker, though. The Magic only averaged 0.88 points on those isolation plays. Of the 53 qualified players, the guys who had at least 200 isolations, he ranked 48th out of 53. So you mentioned it, the turnovers. Like, that takes away your points per possession. Like, he's got to be better as an ISO player. Like you mentioned, he's physically big and he can handle the ball really well. He's got to be much more efficient when they drop the ball to him. But from the sound of it, Sean Sweeney wants to see less ISO. He wants to see all five guys involved, and I think that's a genius idea, definitely. But
absolutely,
Paulo has to make improvements in terms of the ISO game, right?
Well, he was fourth in the league in free throw attempts per game.
Okay.
8.2, and that is a huge thing for him. And the Magic talked about that all the time, getting Paulo to the free throw line, and he was successful at that. And he shot a decent percentage. I think it was 775 or something. Wouldn't be surprised if that goes up. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure his 3-point shooting will go up. And the fact that he shed a few pounds might indicate that that's going to be more part of his game on the outside, which how that works out, we'll see, because he is so strong and physical and mature that you hate to see him not use that, and he has to get to the free throw line. It's kind of hard to get to the free throw line when you're shooting 3-point shots, but
that's right.
So that'll be an interesting kind of dichotomy as things go forward.
Dick, if Paulo needs a chip on his shoulder, if he needs a little motivation, how about this ranking by the Bleacher Report, which I kind of roll my eyes at it a little bit. They ranked the top 10 players drafted between 2021 and 2025. Okay.
Yeah.
Number one, Wemby, obviously. Number two, Cooper Flagg. Number three, Cade Cunningham. All number one picks. Number four, Dylan Harper. A little shocked by that one. He's a good player.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's going to be a great player.
Scotty
Barnes at 5, a guy that I've loved for a long time. Jalen Johnson, Jalen Williams, Evan Mobley, Chet Holmgren at 9, and they had Franz Wagner, the number 8 pick in 2021, 25 years old today. No Paulo Banchero on that list, Dick. How does that make you mad? Does that shock you? Does that make you discount this poll?
It doesn't make me mad. It shocks me a little bit because, come on. I think Paulo. I think he's getting a lot of negative skepticism now around the league because of last season, and but Franz also had a big setback last season. He only played in half the. See, to list him ahead of Paulo Banchero is anybody who's watched the Magic consistently, especially last year, would have to be a little raise an eyebrow about that one.
Yeah, that should make Paulo mad. Like that he should, when he sees that list, he should be pissed off. Quite frankly,
it doesn't make me mad, but I hope it makes him mad. Yeah,
yeah. I think number one picks get a little bit more pressure. They have a little bit more expectations. When you don't win as a number one pick, you really get a heap probably more blame than you deserve, and probably more praise than you deserve when you win. But when you don't win, the number one pick, people kind of roll their eyes at it. Again, fans, this is the Magic Beat, Denton's Dish, presented by Sideline Sports and Entertainment Network. Dick, let's get to some fast break questions. We've got 5 minutes left in the show. Tracy McGrady, the four-time All-NBA player when he played for the Magic from 2000 2004, two-time scoring champion, told Vince Carter that winning the MVP, quote, carries more weight than winning an NBA championship. Dick, what's your reaction to that fellow Polk County legend there, like yourself?
Actually, I think, John, I think what he said was has more weight, right?
Has more weight. Okay, I'm sorry.
He should have said carries more weight.
Yeah.
But that's T-Mac. I mean, he has a history of saying things just that are just a little bit off. And, that statement there, I mean, I think what he was trying to say is obviously it's harder to be an MVP than to win a championship because there's only one MVP per year and 12 guys or 15 guys win a championship and get a championship ring. And but that's a blatantly obvious statement. So he had to say carries more weight, except that he said has more weight. So I guess that's sort of an inflammatory thing because it can be interpreted as saying, oh, you care more about an individual accolade than winning a championship, which of course he didn't quite say. But that's T-Mac.
Yeah, you'll never hear me say anything bad about Tracy. I love Tracy. He had great comments. He was an incredible player while he was in Orlando. Like, he wanted to be Charles Barkley before Charles Barkley. He likes saying the outlandish stuff. But my question would be, would you rather be Jalen Brunson this past season or would you rather be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Like, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got knocked out in the Western Conference Finals. Jalen Brunson's the hottest thing in New York in the last 20 years after taking that team to a title. I'd go the other way on that one. Dick, Klay Thompson, 37 years old. He weaseled his way out of his contract with the Mavericks, told him he wanted to play for a championship contender, negotiated a buyout, and signed for a 2-year deal with the Miami Heat. 11.7 points a game, did shoot 38.3% from three last year. At 37 years old, how much does Klay have left, and can he help Giannis in Miami this year?
Well, for what he signed for, it doesn't sound to me like he has much left. I think from what I've seen, I mean, everybody likes Klay Thompson because he's been a great player, a great individual, and everything. But it seems to me like he's having a little trouble accepting that that he's past his prime. However, he's probably gone to the right place to refute that argument because he will be asked to play a limited role, and that now they got Giannis and they got the two big guys underneath, so he's going to be jacking up a lot of 3-point shots, and he'll have to play a little defense, which would be asking a lot at this stage of his career. But interesting signing. Probably a very wise choice of a landing spot for him.
Yeah, you mentioned Klay having trouble accepting that he's on the downside of his career. Magic coaching great Chuck Daly once said one of the greatest lines I think I've ever heard. He said, "Coaching a superstar who still thinks he's a superstar is the hardest guy in the league to coach because you can't convince him that he's not still a star because he was once one of the best players in the world." So he said that's the hardest guy in basketball to coach, is the guy who is no longer a star but still thinks he's a star.
Wow, great thought by Chuck there. Yeah.
Yep. Dick, how about longtime NBA veteran DeMar DeRozan picking the Nuggets over the Heat? Pat Riley's taken 2 or 3 runs at DeRozan now, and he's missed on him every time. DeRozan, can he help the Nuggets? They just got rid of Peyton Watson, a good young player. You think DeRozan has anything left in the tank?
Well, that's the key. What stage of his career is he at? Obviously, there was a time when he was a very significant player. Whether he's still there, but it seems like that's an obvious patch job after losing Peyton Watson. But Wow. I mean, that had to they had to do something because, like they're saying, the window on Jokic is closing, and wow, to lose another significant player. Wow, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe DeRozan is the answer. I guess that will be the big theme for them going in. I got one to
Yeah.
run by you, John.
Yes, sir.
A trivia question. Who are the only two players? Who are the two players in Magic history that rank among the top three in both scoring and rebounding?
Wow. In all-time history, in
in
NBA history?
in the Magic's history. Both of these guys are in the top among the top three in scoring and rebounding.
Scoring and rebounding.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's I guess Dwight and Shaq. I don't know. I'm just thinking off the top of my head there as far as
I would
the
imagine a
scoring and
lot of
rebound.
people would say Shaq and Dwight. Yeah, Dwight and
Yeah.
Nikola Vucevic.
How about that? How about
Yeah,
that? Yes.
right.
That shows that maybe Vooch has got something left in the tank. Hey, Vooch shot 40.2% in 24-25 from three. He shot 36.9 this past season with the Bulls and the Celtics. So if Vooch can come in and make threes, he can help the Magic, no doubt. Well, fans, this is John Denton and Dick Scanlon. That's all for this week's show. The Magic Beat is presented by Sideline Sports and Entertainment. But we're going to get out of here. Please like and subscribe to the show, and we will see you